experience is rooted in years as a leading advertising executive at Hearst Magazines, including House Beautiful and Country Living, working with leading national advertisers. Mike's experience in the home furnishings industry includes President and CEO of LaBarge Furnishings, and as Vice President of Corporate Marketing for such companies as Henredon, Lexington, Drexel Heritage, and more. As publisher at Luxe Magazine for nearly a decade, the Luxe brand exploded both in popularity, brand recognition, and increased sales. In this capacity, Mike developed close relationships with luxury design firms, design centers, and interior designers, and helping them grow their businesses. Today, Mike helps to educate designers on their ability to improve the health of their clients. Studies from Harvard, Johns Hopkins, and the United Kingdom and more are an integral part of Mike's efforts to help designers realize their value proposition, but their value proposition goes beyond aesthetics to improve health at home. Mike's a regular keynote speaker and panel moderator at High Point Furniture Market in the Dallas Market Center, the Las Vegas Surfaces Expo, the Atlanta Decorative Arts Center, IWCE, and at numerous IFDA, ASID events around the country. Please help me welcome Mike Peterson.
Thank you, Jane, very much. And thank you all for coming today. I enjoyed yesterday. I enjoyed the design days yesterday. That was okay. That was a lot of fun. How many of you have heard of the word neuroaesthetics? Okay. How about biophilia? More. Okay. Yeah, we could use a little more. Well, I will tell you that by the end of this talk, you're going to know an awful lot about both of those words, because both of those words are now are what is driving the interior design business in the commercial world. Neuroaesthetics is one of the strongest movements in interior design right now, and it's being led by people at Johns Hopkins University, by the Mayo Clinic, by the University of Pennsylvania, and other institutions like that. And of course, biophilic design is the darling of the design industry today because of its ability to heal. It's very important. So Science and Design is an educational and marketing platform that helps interior designers realize their ability to improve health. Science actually thinks of our industry as an alternative health resource. Think about that. It's game-changing for our industry. It's more than just creating aesthetics. Here we go. It's about perfect. It's game-changing for our industry because we now know, science now knows, because they can document it, that when we create beauty, which is what designers do, we improve health. And we'll be talking about that an awful lot today. There we go. So we have 5 talking points for today. And those talking points are: the need for aesthetic experiences is hardwired in our DNA. Think of the ramifications of that. Think of what that really means. Evolutionary inheritance reminds us that we are who we were. So we now have software that predicts where the unconscious mind will be attracted. We will be talking today about biophilia, the human need for biophilia, because we are nature. And lastly, we'll show you how designers are now marketing the science in design. So let's get started. Why does Amazon have a Nest-like conference room hanging from the ceiling and 390 different species of plant life in their headquarters? No, this is not a spaceship. This is Apple's headquarters. Why did they spend $5 billion to create a headquarters that is 100% biophilically designed? Every workstation has access to natural sunlight and to greenery. This is Etsy's headquarters in Brooklyn, New York. 100% biophilic. The workstations are hanging cocoons. And Microsoft. Why is Microsoft building conference rooms in treetops? Now, I could show you hundreds more examples, but the bigger question is, what science do these industry leaders happening is that roughly around the year 2000, neuroscientists began to study interior design and architecture. And it developed into a new splintered off division called neuroaesthetics. Neuro being the physiological and the brain, and aesthetics, of course, being beauty, nature, and fine design. And what's happening is that science is way ahead of us, our industry, in understanding our ability to improve health. It's really important that we leave this talk today understanding that the future of design is born in science. And science is helping to document the fact that we lower heart rate, we lower blood pressure when we create beauty. One of my faculty members on my certification program is Susan McSalmon, the executive director of the Arts and Mind Lab at Johns Hopkins University, and world-renowned as a specialist in neuroaesthetics. And she says the truth is that aesthetic experiences are hardwired in all of us. They are evolutionary imperatives, encoded in our DNA as an essential part of our humanity, and they're fundamental to our health, well-being, and learning. The need for what we're all going to be doing in a couple of years, the need for aesthetics is hardwired. The need for beauty in our life is hardwired, encoded in our DNA. We survived over the millennia because we ran towards beauty and aesthetics. Evolutionary imperative and inheritance is an important component of understanding neuroaesthetics. Professor Harry Malgrave out of the Illinois Institute of Technology, a world-renowned neuroscientist, says beauty, like art, is a neurological activity, an urge for and feeling of pleasure, and associated with awe and wonder. Now let's pick this apart just for a minute. Neurological. The benefit that we provide as designers is not just emotional, which is hard to measure and calculate, but it's physical. And being physical, it can be scanned, biomapped, and quantified. That's the exciting part of the last 25 years. And he says urge for. And what he means is that beauty, art, and design are not an elective or a passive interest. They are a compulsion. We fundamentally need them. We've survived over the millennia because we sought out pleasure and beauty. Now, you've heard me mention an evolutionary imperative or inheritance a couple times. What I want to do is kind of walk you through a little bit of this and get a better understanding of what these scholars are talking about. This is Ann Sussman, who's a professor of cognitive architecture at Boston Architectural College, and she says, understanding that our brain is an artifact of 3.6 billion years of evolution frames the new direction for design and architecture. And what's really been eye-opening for me, I've been studying this subject now for the last 10 years, and what's really been eye-opening for me is to realize that we're all in the middle of this vast R&D experiment. We are the sum, we are the aggregate of all who have been before us, and we are contributing to who we will be in the millions of years ahead. Just a point in time. Let me show you a couple slides that'll help define this evolutionary inheritance story. This is where we lived 100,000 years ago. We didn't wake up to the sound of an iPhone alarm. We woke up to the sounds of streams and the flutter of wings and the wind casting through the air, through the trees, looking up at the sky and seeing leaves, the tree canopy and blue sky. That's where we lived. That's what's in our DNA. Our views were distant. There were no steel girders, no brick walls, no computers. This is what our brains adapted to. The brain evolved in a biocentric world, not a machine-regulated world. And lastly, the savanna, the famous savanna. This was our habitat, the place which nurtures. This is what fills our DNA. Everybody in this room has inherited what you're looking at. The paradox is interesting. Millions of years ago, we lived with the rabbits and the deer and the plants and the trees. Today, the rabbits and the deer are still in their natural environment. We are not. Nigel Nicholson is a famed scholar in the United Kingdom, who essentially says you can take the person out of the Stone Age, but you can't take the Stone Age out of the person. We are who we were. And that guides our love and need for beauty and pleasure today. But here's the problem. This is where we live. Anything human-centric about this? But remember, our DNA is still in need of aesthetic experiences. Yet this is the world we have to live in. This is how we live. Unnatural. Unhealthy. I want to say I want to apologize to anybody here from Atlanta. This is your skyline. So, what's human-centric about a bunch of boxes? The question is, if aesthetic experiences are required as a result of our DNA and our evolutionary inheritance, what in the world have we done to ourselves over the last 100 years? Look at this. You have an idea now where I'm going with this train of thought? Look at the fundamental need there is to balance a world that is generally unhealthy, not good for us. And that's the opportunity that exists for the world of interior design. Look at this. On the left is who we are. In this case, on the right is LA, where we have to live. What we're trying to do with science and design is give us all a perspective on just how important we are, how important the interior designer is. It's about the need our clients have that they don't even know anything about. Providing aesthetics, nature, and beauty, what you're going to be doing in the years ahead, balances the world we live in today and improves the health of our clients. This is game-changing for the design industry. Susan McSalmon sent me this summary of her class that she teaches when she says, our brains and bodies are always sensing and interpreting the world around us. And we know that the design of spaces impacts our biology. The opportunity to use this knowledge to design and create intentional spaces that support our health and well-being, that is the future of design. And I might add, that is your future as an alternative health resource. One of the world's leading authorities in neuroaesthetics says the future of design is in creating spaces that heal. We're in the healing business. And by the way, you're getting a big burst of serotonin right now because of the image on the right. That's the Unitarian Church in Charleston, South Carolina. A perfect example of fractal beauty. And by the way, it's not just neuroscience making these claims, it's the medical industry as well. Dr. Claudia Miller, the head of environmental medicine at the University of Texas, is known for this quote: architects and designers have a greater ability to improve public health than medical professionals. I hope this is changing the way you're thinking about the world of interior design, because in 10 years, in another 5 or 10 years, we are going to be known as a health providing industry. It's already started. This is a wow, this is one of those aha moments right now. Architects and designers have a greater ability to improve public health than medical professionals. Doctors, the people that we trust with our health, are making that claim. And it's exciting for our industry. It's cutting edge for our industry to realize this fact. Dr. Douglas Wood of the Mayo Clinic talks about our industry as having patients as clients because the future of medicine is in the home. Johns Hopkins, the Mayo Clinic, the University of Texas, University of Pennsylvania, all leading institutions laying claim to the fact that our industry, improves health. I want to switch gears here just a little bit and talk a little bit about the unconscious mind, also known as the subliminal brain. We're not going to get too deep into the science, don't worry about that. But what's important is that Eric Kandel is a Nobel Prize winner in physiology. And he has stated 95% of brain activity is beyond our conscious awareness. All of our conscious thoughts and actions are unconscious first. Now take that in for a minute. The unconscious mind is in control for roughly the first 3 seconds of seeing a new image. So when you design, are you designing for the unconscious mind? You have 3 seconds to grab the attention of the person who's viewing your work. Just 3 seconds before the conscious mind kicks in. All right? Now I want to show you an example of how this works. And some of you that came to Design Day saw this yesterday. But on the next slide, I'm going to show you 3 geometric shapes. Okay? I want you to be in touch with what you see, what you're actually seeing when you see these 3 geometric shapes. Okay? You ready? What are you looking at?
Face.
Face. Did you have to think about it? That's your unconscious mind, your evolutionary inheritance. Okay? That's how powerful it is. How many times have you looked at the front of a car and seen a face? Think about it. All the time. So I wanted to tell you about this because there's a new software that was created by 3M about 10 years ago. It's called VAS, Visual Attention Software. And this software has the ability to predict where the unconscious mind will be attracted. It's incredibly powerful. They think of themselves as visual spell check. Okay? So I'm going to show you on the next slide. It's a website page, but I want you to be in touch with what grabs your attention first. Okay? And I'm going to ask you to shout a few things out. You ready? What grabs your attention first? The lamp. What else? The color. What else? Okay, let's take a look at what VAS comes up with, okay? Now the way to read this is that there's an 82% chance that the blue and white banner will be seen in the first 3 seconds of viewing this image. There's a 90% chance that the coffee table will be seen in the first 3 seconds. Okay, now, what is it about these elements? What do you think it is about these elements that grabs our attention? Yeah, what else?
The lines.
Okay, lines. Did anybody say color? Okay. So our brains are attracted to edges, color contrast, color intensity, and faces. Edges. Now think about it. Think about this evolutionary inheritance. You're walking through the forest and you come to the edge of a cliff and you realize that there's danger there. So we're very aware of edges, color contrast, looking at the sky through the tree canopy, that kind of thing. And faces, we look at faces millions and millions and millions of times through our life. We're a social animal species, and that's why we seek out faces. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you some real-life examples of using this software. This is an ad I prepared with my team for an interior designer in Miami. We liked the ad. We thought it was pretty good. So we went ahead and ran it through VAS just to visually spell check. And lo and behold, the logo was getting attention, the tagline was getting attention, and the body of the ad was. So we went ahead and ran it. But we were feeling pretty cocky and pretty full of ourselves. We went ahead and produced a 2-page version. You like that? Yeah, we liked it. And we were going to send it right to the publisher, but at the last minute I said, well, hold on for a minute, let's run it through VAS and make sure it's as good as we think it is. Uh-oh. We never ran the ad because the right-hand page wasn't getting any attention at all. And in magazine publishing, the right-hand read is a real thing. When you open up a magazine, you tend to look at the right-hand page first. Okay? This is the ad that we ultimately ran. We went back to the basics of VAS technology, and we looked for edges, we looked for color intensity, color contrast, and we added Sarah's headshot. And the headshot, there's a 98% chance that that headshot was going to be seen. spoke a couple months ago at the flooring retailers convention in Las Vegas. I had 60 flooring retailers in the room. And so I grabbed one of their ads, some collateral that they use, and this is it. These guys love showing their floors. But now that you're all vast experts, what do you think is going to happen when somebody sees this ad? What gets attention? The plant, what else? Does anybody see a pair of eyes?
They just said the face in the back.
Oh, okay, okay. I didn't hear that. When I showed this slide at the flooring retailer convention, there was an audible groan in the audience. Because the one thing that they wanted to get attention was getting no attention. All right, the last subject for today, or next to the last, we're going to talk about marketing. We're going to talk about biophilia. And I understand that you might have some awareness of biophilia, so some of this may be repeated for you, but we're going to go through a couple of basic applications of biophilia. The thing to remember is that we are nature. And that's why we have a fundamental need for nature. Biophilia, if you break the, I know it's an odd word when people first hear it. Bio means nature. Philia means, is the opposite of phobia. It means love of. So we're talking about love of nature. And biophilic design is the deliberate attempt to design for the inherited human affinity for nature. Part of our inheritance. In her book, Your Brain on Art, Susan says humans have existed less than 1/100th of a percent of the species history in modern surroundings, and the other 99.99% of the time living in nature. It is no wonder why we yearn for a time where human physiological, psychological functions began and were naturally supported. This is who we are. Now, the study of biophilia started roughly about 1980, and there was one study was in Philadelphia where doctors were noticing that some of their patients were recovering faster from surgery than others. So they brought in Professor Ulrich from Texas A&M to do a study on trying to figure out why that was happening. Well, he determined that some patients had a view out the window of a brick wall. Other patients had a view out the window of a tree landscape. And those who had a view out the window of a tree landscape, the recovery time was almost 1 full day shorter than the others. There was also a reduction in the use of painkillers of 22%, because we now know that the pain receptors in our brain are aligned with those receptors that seek out pleasure and beauty. All because of a view of nature. Nature is the grammar of design. Stephen Keller says in his book, Nature by Design. And if you like the subject of biophilic design, I would definitely get your hands on Nature by Design by Stephen Keller. Excellent, excellent cover. He says that the nature is the compositional grammar for all types of design today. Look at this. Look at the movement, the fluidity, the softness, the grace of nature. And remember, there are no right angles in nature. There really are no straight lines in nature. I come out of the home furnishings business, the furniture business, and for the life of me, I don't know why all the tables they make are straight lines with right angles at the corner. Very unnatural. And I also want to talk about the health benefits. This is one of the reasons this is as hot as can be in the interior design business right now. This is the Khu Tech Phuat Hospital in Singapore. And it is generally considered the standard of all hospitals in the world for biophilic design. It is 100% biophilically designed. If you're an architect somewhere in the world and you're getting ready to draw up a hospital, you make a pilgrimage to Singapore to see the Khu Tech Phuat Hospital. This is Maggie Center at St. James University in the United Kingdom. Look at the abundance of natural sunlight. Look at the fractal patterning on the walls and the ceiling. Look at the natural color tones, the pockets of greenery. If the medical industry around the world is using biophilic design to improve the health of their patients, the logical next step is, shouldn't we be using it to improve the health of our patients? Look at the opportunity we have to change the value proposition of our industry. This is the Rusk Institute in New York. A couple of years ago, they prescribed for 107 cardiac patients time spent in a nursery. Not just to walk through the nursery, but to literally put their hands in dirt and plant flowers. The result was a decrease in the heart rate of 5 beats per minute after just 30 minutes. Approximately a 6 to 7% improvement in the usage of the heart. Has anybody here heard of the term Shinrin Yoku? Oh, good, good. Translated means forest bathing. In the early 1990s, doctors in Japan were sending patients out to the forest instead of prescribing a bottle of pills. The test study was so successful that Shinrin Yoku is now a medicine in Japan. So instead of prescribing a bottle of Xanax for a patient, they prescribe time spent in the forest. Now we'll talk a little bit about applying biophilic design, and I'll show you some of the evolutionary inheritance that goes into biophilic design. Now there are 15 different design elements in biophilia. Because of time, we're only going to talk about 4 of them, and all 4 of them deal with our inheritance. They are prospect and refuge, organized complexity, modes of mystery, and the use of patterns and fractals. And we'll talk a little bit more about patterns and fractals because they're so important in our lives today. Let's go back again 100,000 years. This is where we lived. Safe and secure, a sanctuary, a refuge. Maybe with a fire burning at the front of the cave to ward off unwelcome guests. But with the view of the rest of the world, looking at the prospect of the rest of the world with a sense of awe and wonder. This is what's in our DNA. And it's one of the reasons that an image like this in interior design is so powerful to us. We're just connected a million years. This is why it's so important. Organized complexity. Look at the multitude of lines, geometries, and scales all blended into this gorgeous image of beauty. All elements highly complex, but organized. And by the way, biophilia is taking us back to the original interpretation of the word geometry. Geo, meaning earth. Metry, meaning measure. Measuring the earth. And by the way, science tells us that we're attracted to organized complexity because our brains are a perfect example of organized complexity. We seek it out to satisfy what we have in our brain. So if this is organized complexity in nature, here's organized complexity today. This is Gaudí's La Sagrada Familia in Barcelona. Can you imagine the first spade of dirt for La Sagrada Familia was turned in 1880 by Gaudí. And it will be finished next year. It will have taken 146 years to complete this beautiful work of art. Now, in a couple of years, just in case your clients don't want to wait 146 years to experience organized complexity, here's what it might look like, and it won't take us long. With a fair amount of biophilia thrown in. Modes of mystery. I have to admit I found this interesting. I wouldn't have associated mystery with interior design. But think about it. What's at the end of that trail? What's behind the trees on the right? What can I discover next? All part of who we are, filling us with a sense of wonder and curiosity. That's one of the reasons images like this, the long hallway, what's at the end of that hallway? What's behind the door on the left? And a sense of mystery. I just threw this slide in the other day just because I love the room. Filled with mystery. Now, we're going to talk about fractals. Does everybody know what a fractal is? Generally? Okay, some heads going up and down. Okay, anyway, fractals are self-similar patterns over a range of magnification scales. Continuous, consistent, but similar geometric images. A fern is a perfect example of a fractal. Snowflakes, clouds, waves in the ocean, tree canopies, veins in a leaf and veins in our bodies, all fractals. Rita Trombin works for Terrapin Bright Green, a consulting firm in Washington, D.C., specializing in biophilia. And she says, get these sentences here. The experience of fractals has quantifiable health benefits, including reduced stress, improved cognitive functioning, enhanced creativity and problem solving, heightened appreciation for nature, and positive emotions. All because of fractal patterning in the world of interior design. All of that is the result of fractal patterning. And the benefits of fractal patterning have been shown to occur just within minutes of experiencing fractal beauty. Going back to Stephen Keller, by the way, these are the solar-powered treescapes in Singapore. Singapore prides itself on being the city in a garden. The building codes require biophilic design in Singapore. Stephen Keller goes on to say, humans have evolved to thrive in complex yet coherent fractal environments. And then he says maybe the most important sentence in this talk. We perceive fractal environments as having the highest aesthetic value. So of all the design elements that we have available to us as an industry, fractal patterning is generally perceived to have the highest aesthetic value. Let's get a little more personal. Richard Taylor is one of my faculty members, and he's a specialist in fractal fluency out of the University of Oregon. And he says that fractals are the basic building blocks of nature. Look at the circulatory system and a tree canopy, and I dare say you could flip the colors, and it would still seem pretty much the same. He also calls fractals, he calls them the fingerprint of nature. Now, before I show you the next slide, I want everybody to look at the palm of your right hand. What do you see? Lines. What you see are the building blocks of nature, reminding us that we are nature. Now, I want to show you how biophilia and fractal patterning can be used to heal. This is an elementary school that replaced one that had to be torn down. It's in Sandy Hook, Connecticut. And we all know what happened there many years ago. The mandate from the city managers was to create a space that heals. And they did healing both the students and also the community. And they did just that. Look at the lyrical movement of the roof line. Remember, there are no straight lines in nature. Look at the natural color tones, the stone wall that is a fractal wall. Look at the lyrical movement of the canopy over the front door. Let's go inside. And inside we see treescapes. We see natural color tones. We see patterns on the floor. And we have a sense of mystery. What's at the end of that hallway? Here's what's at the end of that hallway. Look at that room. Abundance of natural sunlight. Fractal patterning in the carpet. Movement in the furnishings. Color contrast. What 7-year-old wouldn't thrive in an environment like that? Okay? Now, the last part of the talk is about what is happening in the world of interior design now with designers who've been in business for 20 years, 30 years. So many of them are learning about neuroaesthetics and biophilic design. And so I want to show you some examples of some of their marketing that they're doing because they want to be ahead of the curve in the interior design business. This is Jenny Pippin in Statesville, North Carolina. She writes a monthly blog. In this one, she talks about the science of a happy home, neuroaesthetics, and how home affects your mental health. I would dare say 5 years ago, nobody was using the word neuroaesthetics. Nobody was using the word science in their interior design marketing. Now the industry's filled with it. This is Jenny again. The science of stress reduction, the science behind biophilic design to heal mind, body, and soul. This is Day House Studio out of Utah, bridging interior design and health. You see how the language is changing in terms of interior design? This is Elon Design, just outside of Washington, D.C. Neuroaesthetics, the science of how beauty and art affect our mind. This is Kristen Bartone in Richmond, talking about biophilic design. This is Rendezvous Design out of Fort Lauderdale. Wellness is the new wealth. And she talks about how her new knowledge of neuroaesthetics and biophilia promotes healing and human-centric design. This is the future of our industry, what I'm giving you right now. This is Trisha Turk out of Colorado Springs, the interior design firm dedicated to the beauty of well-being. And the first sentence in her text is a little hard to read, but she talks about neuroaesthetics is the study of beauty and science. And again, 5 years ago, nobody in the industry was talking about this. This is Erica McLean out of Dallas, our science-based design approach. The industry is well on its way to becoming a scientifically based industry, as much as aesthetically based industry. And this is where it all started for me. I was still publisher at Luxe Magazine, and I was having lunch with an architect in Denver, Colorado. And all he wanted to talk about was how beauty improves health. That he had studied with Johns Hopkins and some other institutions, and he was changing his design firm to represent the health benefits of good architecture. Don Ruggles is his name. He's become a very good friend of mine. And he went on to write this book, Beauty, Neuroscience, and Architecture. And if you like this subject matter, I would definitely get my hands on this book as a great primer to get you started in understanding what is the future of interior design. Another book from Ann Sussman called Cognitive Architecture. She goes into a lot more detail than Don, so read Don's book first, then get your hands on Cognitive Architecture. She goes into subjects like thigmotaxis. Does everybody know what thigmotaxis is? That's all right. It's not an easy word. When you walk into a restaurant, and the restaurant is totally empty, you go sit at a table in the middle of the room. No. Where do we go? We go to the wall. We're all wall huggers. We are wall huggers, and that's what thigmotaxis is. And it's tied to prospect and refuge, safe and secure in our home, with the prospect of looking at the rest of the room in this case. I threw the slide in just to let you know that interior designers have been coming to me over the last many years and saying, I want to be certified in science and design. And so I created a certification program for them, and we now have hundreds of interior designers taking the class or having graduated from it already, and taught by the academics and scholars from Johns Hopkins and University of Pennsylvania and so on. And my last slide. Let's listen to Harry Malgrave again when he says, I believe we're on the verge of a revolution in the way that we approach design. It will no longer be guided by the speculative constructs of borrowed theory, but rather by a more basic understanding of the human organism and its existential engagement with the built environment. This is the epiphany that needs to take place. This is all relatively new for the world of interior design, but science is, as I said at the beginning, science is well ahead of us, and they want us to catch up. Science and medicine, neuroscience and medicine know our future and see our opportunity right now better than we do. We need to engage with the health benefits of beauty and interior design. And let it be, let's change the last sentence. Let it be that we are the epiphany that needs to take place. We are in an industry whose future is now born in science. And I thank you. Are there any questions?
Do we have any questions for Mike? I have a question.
Yep.
On the slide back when you were talking about the mass, and how you took the one page layout and made it two, what would have, did
did not do that. When we lost the whole page, we kind of knew that we were going to lose the
It's just
spread.
better to stay with
Yeah.
one page. And then I have another question, a photography question. If there's any other photographers in here, pipe up. But so I think it's interesting what you're talking about when the image shows from the carpet and the face and the hidden faces, and that's like a game, right? Fun game with the hidden faces. I wonder if, because I used to have a professional photographer that would photograph my work for me, and I never told him what to do, right? He did it himself. So I'm curious what a photographer, a freelance photographer, professional design, if they would start to look for, because that room would look totally different if they were standing behind the desk looking out. So are photographers, or the people they're working for, directing them? Do you see what I'm getting at? So they get more, so they get picked up by beautiful homes instead of another magazine, because the images pops up to them first.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the editors are always looking for the best photography, and the editors they don't know, but they're looking for color contrast. They're looking for images and room sets that really do stand out.
So do the photographers realize that if they can find a hidden face and cat it and
I don't think so. I don't think they realize that. No.
Gonna start talking about photographer and showing
Yeah.
hidden faces. Any questions?
Just know, folks, that your future is bright. It's incredibly bright. This development in interior design is adding a whole new value proposition to the world of interior design. And you're going to be getting into it at the right time. When I do these presentations to 20-year experienced designers, what I hear most often is, I wish I'd known this 20 years ago, which is where you are right now. So you have a leg up on the rest of the interior design industry. Yes, sir.
If you were in our position, being undergrads and like interior design, what steps would you take to grow your knowledge about like biophilia and neuroscience?
Well, the first things I would do, and I realize you have a lot of book learning that you have to do during the year, but I would certainly get my hands on those books that I mentioned, Nature by Design, and Don's book, Beauty, Nature, and Beauty, Neuroscience, and Architecture is the title of his book. I would certainly start there. And I would just start gobbling up knowledge and information. Once those two books will lead you to a lot more information, because they're really primers. They're the first books that you want to get to help you start learning about this. And there's so much more. We just did 45 minutes. I mean, we could talk for hours about the subject matter, because it is so game-changing for the industry right now. And exciting. That's where I would start.
Okay, thank you.
I was questioning with the biophilia. Is there a difference between like if you were to fill that room instead of with plants, have it be fake plants? Is it the look of the plants, or is there some
It's the
oxygen that it provides?
look of the walls. You can wallpaper with color, with all kinds of plant life, and it's called biomimicry, and both of them are just as effective.
I have a question about the VAS.
Yeah.
You said it was
A type of AI technology, yeah. And by the way, the VATS technology is really, really inexpensive. It's $49 a month to have access to the software. Yes.
Do the environmental impact of the AI technology interfere with any of the biophilia things?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Like, cause I know personally a lot of e-waste is created by AI. Does that, affect the effectiveness of the biophilia?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Victoria.
Whenever it comes to biophilia, would we need to understand hydroponics more
Yeah,
I need the hydroponics to source to, with the unrooted plant, help me. You understand, she's asking, she's wondering if, hydroponics plays into the biophilia matter. You said something about a plumber, about whether the,
Would we need to understand to the same extent the plumber needs to understand whenever it comes?
I certainly think it would help. I don't know that it's essential to understand hydroponics in order to understand biophilic design and to implement biophilic design.
yeah. Because you would find a firm that worked with that type of stuff, that if you wanted to take behind it, they would have the standing knowledge.
Any last questions?
So with the nature aspects,
It can definitely be, look, there are 15 different design elements inside of biophilic design. Fire is one of them. Running water is like a fountain in commercial design. And even in some luxury homes today, you have fountains. And they're a total of 15 different ones. I just showed you 4 that are elements of biophilic design. Like prospect and refuge is so important. I mean, it's, you want to feel safe and secure. It calms you down. And so that's one of the most important design elements in biophilic design. But it doesn't have to be just greenery.
I was gonna say, because the Etsy headquarters, I think it was the Etsy headquarters that had the colorful circular things with the, look like folded paper, origami paper. That's a fractal, and that's part of nature too. So just because biomimicry is based in nature and the repetition of nature, you can still do it just like the cathedral ceilings and the other, I don't know what that other ceiling was again, we talked about that.
The serotonin.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the
Serotonin was the
church in Charleston.
yeah, but then you had another one that's really interesting.
Oh,
Oh, yeah, Sagrada Familia. But that repetition of shape and geometric shape, even amorphic shape, can lead to very similar benefits.
Yeah. Samantha?
Do you think it would be more beneficial to have a window if it's looking out at the buildings or a picture of nature?
It's interesting. I would go with the picture of nature. Yeah, looking out a window at another building doesn't connect you with nature.
As somebody who's a construction management major instead of interior design, how do you think the increase of biophilia and all that kind of stuff will affect construction management?
It's actually happening in construction faster than it's happening in interior design, because your major corporations, the major corporations like the ones I showed you at the very beginning, the Apples and the Amazons. You know what rings their bell is profitability. Okay, so they know that biophilic design generates creativity, generates productivity, and when those two things happen, it generates profitability. So it's already happening in architecture and commercial design.
Any other questions?
Okay, folks, thank you very much.
Wait, we have one more question.
Oh, we have one more? Okay.
One more, this is our last question. Manami, what you got?
Do you think many design companies or construction companies are aware of the topic that you were talking about today? Or is there
Are they aware what?
Are they aware of the topics that you discussed today?
Oh, yeah. They very much are. The big ones are. And I'm actually, I speak to the larger design firms as well. I'm speaking to BSB, I think, in a couple of weeks.
Well, thank you. Everybody help me.